Hi, welcome to Knits Up. I'm Mindy, your hostess, otherwise known as Knitter CNY. You can find me on Ravelry, and there's a podcast group on Ravelry. There's a YouTube channel. If you would and you like what you see, or even if you find it mildly amusing, subscribe over at YouTube. That's the best way to find new podcasts. I will put them up in the group because you have an option to add a YouTube video. I don't know that the feed is going to iTunes whatsoever and can't really figure out how to make that work. So subscribe at iTunes or subscribe at YouTube if you can. And I'm going to try and podcast more regularly to see if that will help with getting things back going. For years I did an audio podcast and then I switched to video because it was just easier. So I am trying to make it a little bit more interesting and not just me going, hi, I knit this. Hi, I knit this. I'm done. Bye. It's really boring when you do that. I am enjoying I've had a smart TV for about 2 years. I'm really enjoying the fact that I can click on that, and watch YouTube videos of podcasts while I'm knitting on my television. It's really cool. The English grammar, they're not in the right order. I'm not sitting on my television knitting, but watching podcasts and knitting. So, new hair color, new haircut for the new year. It turned out a little more red than I like, but whatever. I'm actually getting light at the moment. We've gotten a lot of snow, so there's reflection of the light off of there. I might look really red. I'm not wearing any makeup. I typically do not wear makeup, so I'm sorry if you are getting way more of a close-up than you wanted to of me, but it is what it is. So this week is going to be relatively short. I've only been working on a few things, and I'll talk to you about some acquisitions that I'm getting. Part of which are here, part of which are still on the way. So I've been working on some socks out of this yarn, which are some Millens that I had at one point from, I think, Joann's maybe. And they came with two fingering weight wrapped up together. And at first I thought I was going to take them apart, but decided, no, I'll just make warmer socks. So I finished one sock this week. I did a swirl toe. That's a little different for me. Sort of like the crown of a hat. You do the decreases regularly spaced around it. And then I did a 2x2 rib. I think this has 48 stitches on it. And then I did a heel flap and turned the heel. This is sort of turquoise, blue, green, and black. And it did a little bit of pooling and stuff, but it's not too bad. I'm doing that on a US 3, which I believe is a 3.25. Half on a Susan Bates and half on a Nova. Knitter's Pride Nova. I'm going to bend for a second, so excuse me. Sorry, you didn't really want to see my shoulder, but I kind of need that. So I'm working on the second one. It goes very fast, as you can imagine, with 2 strands of yarn and basically a worsted weight, or a DK to a worsted weight. The second pair of socks I'm working on were my Christmas Eve cast on. I don't know how many of you do this, but for the last couple of years, maybe longer than that, I've done a Christmas Eve or a New Year's Eve cast on. This year it was Christmas Eve. So this is yarn that you may have seen before. This is yarn that was actually a gift for Christmas one year to a friend of mine who has said, oh, I'm going to teach you how to make socks. It's going to be great, And finally, a couple of years ago, she handed it back to me and said, I'm never going to make socks. I love you, but I'm never going to make socks. Here, please take the yarn back. So this is DK weight yarn, and it is Regia Design Line by K Facet. It's the 6-ply, and it is, that's the very exciting color number. And this was bought from a yarn shop that is now closed. The pattern that I'm using is the Blueberry Waffle Sock. Cannot remember who the author is. It's a free pattern. It's been around forever and ever. It's pretty easy. There's 4 rows, and 2 of the rows, 2 are the same, and then 2 are the same again. And then you just repeat those 4 rows. So really it's 2 rows of a pattern that you have to remember. And it's not that difficult. So I only did that on the leg. I did a cuff down, and then I did a heel flap, turned the heel, and then just did all the way down to here. Came to the end of my yarn because it was kind of thick, and decided that I needed a different color toe because obviously I'm not going into the second skein of DK weight yarn. So I found that I had this, which is Patton's Croy, and holding it up to the Regia yarn, it was exactly the same width. So it was almost a DK, even though it's listed as a fingering. It says 1 on it, but it's actually not that. It's very lofty, so maybe it's the old 4-ply, I can't remember. But it is Gentry Gray, and then I used some reinforcing thread. So that dark gray kind of fits in with all of this, even though there's not really gray in the sock. But that worked out really well. And then this morning I started on a new sock. They're not going to match exactly. They'll be kind of close. They'll be a little bit fraternal. But somehow with this pattern it worked out that the striping really worked with the waffle pattern. So we'll see how that works out. I'm doing this on a Knitter's Pride Carbon. I think it's a 40-inch. And it is a US 1.5. I think it's a 2.5 millimeter. And I'm magic looping it. Magic loop means you have 1 needle. And you can look that up on YouTube. Magic loop is a technique. The other socks I'm doing, obviously, 2 circulars. Sorry for the jingling. And then the other thing that I'm working on, but not really at the moment because it's kind of sort of on the needles. I decided I needed to buy some huge, ugly yarn and huge, huge needles. These are 20 millimeter US size 36, and they're birch needles. They're Knitter's Pride needles as well. These were at Hobby Lobby, of all places. They're huge. The cord is huge. I have no idea what this is. It's supposed to make like a scarf, and you basically do the ends together. And there's somebody at work that I think would be a good candidate for this because they're the kind of person that if they have a dark coat, this would be pretty. And it was supposed to be, oh, I'll make a Christmas present for them. Well, the problem is when you work with this, I don't know about you, but I'm not used to doing, it's like knitting with snow shovel handles. They're thicker than snow shovel handles are. And I'm a thrower, so I physically let go of the right needle. That's just the way I knit. And so that's kind of a pain in the butt with these because they're heavy. They're not really heavy, but they're wood. And so that kind of gets limitedly worked on, so to speak. I did a couple of orders. One I ordered from Amazon, the other from Love Knitting. I got some of the more of the Nova Platinas from Knitter's Pride because I have the US 3.25, so I decided I'm going to get a 3 millimeter and a 2.25 millimeter. That would be equivalent to a US size 1. This would be equivalent to a US size 2.5. So that'll be fine. I'm just at the point where I'm like, okay, whatever. You know, they seem to work pretty well, and they were relatively inexpensive. There should also be coming from Love Knitting 2 skeins of Yorkshire Spinners, West Yorkshire Spinners. I think it's called Airy DK, which is, it looks like it's a sock yarn. The colors I picked were like purples, and then there's like a weird sort of rainbow color. So I decided that's what I was going to do. And then yesterday I ended up at Ollie's. I always end up at Ollie's at some point. That's our local discount chain that's around here. And they had some Bernat yarn that has come in, and it's the Bernat Wool Up Bulky, which is an 80-20 mix of wowzers, it'll come to me, acrylic and wool. And this is this is brown, and it says you're supposed to use USI 17 needles. This might be a crochet thing. It looks like there's some relatively simple patterns for it. I don't know if it's been discontinued or not. It seems like it's going to be really fluffy, but I thought this might make a good guy's knit at some point. They were $2.99 a skein, so I couldn't really go wrong and crochet or knit them. So that's what I'm working on. There's not too much else going on other than that, and stay warm, and try and keep an optimistic attitude if you can. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully I'll see you in a couple of weeks, and maybe I'll have the other socks done. Take it easy, guys. Have a great week.